Ladies and gentlemen, this is none other than the Jordan Garber Now podcast. And obviously, you know who I am, but more people know who she is. And that's none other than Molly McCoy. Welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me on, Jordan. I'm happy to be here.
Well, it is great to have you on the program. 2 years in the business, you have done big things already, and things have just started. But when it comes down to it, it always goes down to psychology, ring development, and learning the very basics. And Hallowett and Fire Ant were the both two mentors to you to do so. You cannot ask for a better trainer in today's trend of professional wrestling. How was that experience walking in the door for the first time?
Oh my God. I was so nervous and so scared walking in the door the first time because when I finally pulled the trigger and decided I'm going to go train to wrestle, my biggest thing that I couldn't get out of my head was crap, what if I'm not good? What if I take a bump and I'm like, this sucks. This isn't for me because I didn't know what plan B was if
Yeah.
wrestling wasn't going to work. At the time, I was just right out of college, couldn't find a job because the job market sucked for what I went to school for. And I was like, well, I'm not really getting any younger. I think I should finally try wrestling. But I'm really glad that it stuck. I took my first couple bumps and was like, well, that's not so bad. I think I can figure it out. But yeah, Hollow Wicked and Fire Ant were absolutely incredible trainers for me. Um, Still kept in contact with them while COVID's going on before I really came back and tried to have my first couple of comeback shows. And having so many trainers at the Wrestle Factory really helped, because everyone had a different way of teaching. So if it was oh, my drop kick really sucks and I'm not getting it with Hollow Wicked, maybe Fire Ant has some advice that'll help. Getting to go to so many different brains, and we had so many quality vets there too, like Dasher Hatfield and Murlock, that you could go to and be like, what do I do about this? It was really open, very talkative, easy to communicate in an atmosphere.
No, absolutely. And when it comes to your first few matches here in Chikara in the year of 2019, that is a lot of pressure, going on towards, you wrestled a lot of independents in 2019, but what's it like? Just people like Lady Frost, Boomer Hatfield, Hermit Crab, you worked all these guys in Reading, New Jersey, Delaware, so you're making towns too. So how did you soak in the road trip process of the independent industry? Because I remember going on the road to Wisconsin and Minneapolis with the likes of Hotshot Danny Duggan, and man, it was one of the best times I've ever had as a wrestling journalist. So what are some of your road stories, kind of like in the beginning, just getting used to it? How long was the adjustment?
Oh my gosh. I was a strange case because I know a lot of people will have their first match when they're 6 months to a year in. I started training in 2015, August of 2015, and I didn't debut until March of 2019.
That's good though.
So yeah, I kind of 2 years or so in, I was kind of bitter about it because I felt like people were lapping me, and I was like, what am I not getting? What am I doing wrong? But that wasn't necessarily the case. And now looking back, I'm really grateful because, a lot of people's first matches go to YouTube and they're like, ugh, it's not exactly what I want everybody to see. For the first time is my first match. So I'm really happy with the content that I have put out so far. But I spent a lot of time on the road as a student first. I think the furthest that I'd ever gone was Chicago, and I was doing it first as a student. But I'm trying to think of what any of my really wacky stories would be. I
Maybe
saw
not, maybe not just stories, but like maybe just adjusting to the road and learning the road, because there are rules of the road as well.
there are, and it was especially strange being in the bubble of Chikara, as they call it, because so much of my time was dedicated to being in Philadelphia and just being in the same location for nearly a year, that when we did get on the road, it was still like with a lot of the same kind of people. Like I trained with Boomer and Hermit Crab and Lady Frost and all of them. So like it's people that I felt confident working, which was super helpful in my first year too, to where it was like, oh, we're going to call a trios match. It's going to be like 12 to 15 minutes, which sounds super intimidating, but like these are all people I work with every single week. This is all stuff like, and we had all kinds of in-house terms where like you could call it and I would immediately know the next 2 minutes. Like, so I wouldn't call them crutches, but they were like just really helpful little tidbits that I know I can only use with specific people, but it's still like, even now, I primarily try to stay within my bubble and wrestle people that I'm most comfortable wrestling, like people that I've been around during the pandemic. I think people are going to get pretty sick of me and Boomer versus Oreo Speedwagon because we've wrestled them so many times now. But it's just those are the people that I'm comfortable being around in that atmosphere.
Definitely. There's a lot of guys that you get comfortable working with, and just certain guys I ref as well. You're just comfortable working their match. But what was really the first few challenges, going into your career? What were you really struggling with going into your first series of matches?
Finding an opponent half the time.
A
was
good one to work
difficult.
with that connects pretty much.
Well, because like there's still, it's not common, but there have definitely been a few occasions where like I would travel with other friends because like I said, like I had people at the factory I was close with that were lapping me, but they would be cool with like bringing me along to shows like just to kind of network and stuff. And after, meeting the guys there and being there a couple times, they'd be like, man, yeah, I'd really like to have you on, but I don't have another woman for you. And I'd be like, you don't have to have another woman for me. I'll wrestle whoever you want. But
Exactly.
like, it's, I've mostly probably wrestled men more than I have women in my career, and I'm non-binary myself, so like it really makes absolutely no difference to me. Like,
I agree. Like certain promotions that have that kind of thing where it's like, and I've seen that happen lots of times too. And everybody has where why can't a woman work a guy? What's the difference? What's the big
and
deal?
I respect it because I'm not the promoter and I'm not the one
And
that's putting out the product, but
that's true
like,
too.
yeah.
It's just kind of a drag because you fight so hard for an opportunity and you're qualified. Totally, obviously, every woman wrestler is qualified to step in there with a guy and have a 5-star match.
Yeah.
And I feel like promoters' rules are rules, and you have to respect certain ones. But I got to give credit to the promoters that promote intergender wrestling. Speaking of which, did you wrestle for Pizza Party Wrestling?
I've wrestled for Pizza Party several times.
That's
Yeah, I love
amazing.
Pizza Party.
Does everyone get pizza, or like how was that about? What was the
Yeah, we
experience
get
there? How was that
well,
crowd?
like we do actually get paid, but like we also will get paid in pizza, which is pretty sweet.
Yay!
But I've been going to Pizza Party from the beginning, and then eventually, like I think on their third show, Grapple Picking, is when I got a match against Ava Everett. That was really fun, and Boomer Hatfield and I have wrestled there a couple of times. We've been trying to get out more as a tag team and be looked at more so as tag team wrestlers than just singles guys, as fun as singles matches are. But I think I have the most fun and feel the most confident in tags. So Boomer and I have had a few tags at Pizza Party. There's a Pizza Party show that we taped not too long ago, coming out soon. We got a tag against the main event. They're a team that's they're House of Glory guys from New York, and they're
Oh,
super good. They
nice.
should be everywhere. But yeah, I've been on several Pizza Party shows. Had some of my favorite matches there. Had a really good scramble there last December that I really enjoyed.
Awesome. What was that scramble? Who was in that?
Oh my gosh.
If you can remember, name at least like one
I think I
person, two
can
people.
remember everyone in there. But Pizza Party kind of started out as a lot of guys that were friends in backyarding. So it was a
Mm.
lot of dudes that were coming back for the first time after like taking some years off and finally going legit. So it was Midnight Coal Company, who are a tag team of Russell Best and Brad Rush. I think they do single stuff now though. Um, Tyrannosaurus Flex, which is one of my favorite names in wrestling. Matt Vertigo. I think Dougie Mosa and Greg Auburn, and that was everybody in there.
Nice.
So a lot of Pizza Party regulars, but a lot of dudes that were super easy to work with, and that like I know I'd have a great match with no matter what.
I love asking this question. I love asking wrestlers this question. We asked former Major League pitcher Shane Yuma this question as well the other night. When it comes to working in front of crowds, what kind of crowds have you been working in front of, and like which ones do you enjoy working in front of the most, and maybe not so much, and which ones are pretty much your favorites to do a show in front of?
Best crowd to work in front of are kids. Kids are always the best because they just get like so invested and so behind everything. Sometimes they get a little too rowdy, and then you like kind of want the parents to reel them back in a little bit, but like it's nobody screams louder and claps harder than kids. There's so much fun to perform for. And non-wrestling fans are always a really interesting crowd. Like I've gotten to be at a couple of like no ring shows, and it's mostly just like bar patrons and the couple of people that knew that there was a wrestling show going on. So it's this funny mix of wrestling fans that are super into it, and then bar patrons being like, what is going on? And then being super invested by the end of it. I think those are probably my favorite. A typical wrestling crowd is fun. But actually like hooking people in for the first time is both a challenge and feels really rewarding.
Oh, absolutely. You know, I remember doing the I don't know, have you heard of the Tony Condello Northern Death Tour?
I have not. What is that?
Oh, you are in for a treat. You're in for a story here. Tony Condello is a very legendary wrestling promoter in Winnipeg who is responsible for bringing Chris Jericho, Lance Storm, Christian, Edge, Rhino to stardom.
Yeah.
And that's how they started their careers, was on this infamous Northern Death Tour that I did in February, and I came back with a skid of my life, basically. It's known as the most hellacious tour. Why? Is because I'm calling, obviously, from Winnipeg, Manitoba, so you know how far north that is, or how far up. And now imagine going more and more north, driving on a total ice road in the middle of in the winter.
Oh my God.
With a crew of 8 guys.
Having in like a van?
Like literally on these northern reserves. These northern reserves up north. So you're going on these really random northern communities, culture shock, where everything's expensive. Like I remember like 12 pack of water was $60. $60 Canadian. It was unbelievable. I lived off Tim's, coffee and muffins and like canned food, because you're supposed to bring one bag of food that lasts the whole 2-week tour. So you're wrestling 18 shows in a row up north, driving up to like 18 hours night out. It tests the skill if you want to be in it. And I don't know how I survived. There is backup in case I screwed up, but I remember at the end I said I couldn't do another day. And now that's why I sit here and do podcasts. But it was hell. And I still ref. I still love it. But until I, get back in shape and gain some weight, and train and get that badge, I want to make sure that I can continue to sit here in the studio and provide great shows. But yeah, it was a crazy story. We almost fell through the ice and died. It was intense. So that's with wrestlers and all that. That's where you determine brotherhood with the boys and the crew, because that's the ultimate test. And it was pretty crazy. So
see, I don't think my crew's ever almost died, but there was I think the closest comparison I can make to that within wrestling was like the trip where every single car got a ticket. That's the closest I have. I've lived in the mountains, so I was anticipating oh, it's going to sound a little bit like the time I spent in the mountains. It didn't. No, it's not quite it.
I don't know how the ring crews are like in the States, but I simply don't know how I did it. I am really skinny. I drink soda every day, and I was setting up this ring every single day, and I felt like this was it. I'm done, and I still forced myself to go through it. So my question for you, what are the ring crews like in the States? Do they have their own ring crews, like a whole separate crew, or does it vary by promotion, sort of thing?
So I was in a very unique circumstance, which I can say about a lot of things involving Chikara, including with
You don't
ring
mind if I
crew.
smoke, Molly, right? Is
Oh,
it
I
not
don't
a
care.
big? Okay,
Doesn't matter to me.
just
Um,
respect. That's all.
no, I appreciate that. If I was still with Chikara, I might because hard PG. But now that I'm not, I'm a little like not going crazy, but a little bit like I don't mind a lot of stuff. You don't mind if I curse, do you?
Yeah,
I'm
go
not
ahead. This is you can say whatever you want.
a storm, but all right, I don't mind a lot of shit then. So with when I started at Chikara, it was maybe like 20 students. It was like myself, Travis Huckabee, Crummels and Defarge. I think the Cyberhawks came not too much later, but it was only about 20 students, and it just kept growing and growing to the point where we had somewhere around like I'm talking like 70 students like full time, and then kids that were like taking classes like every couple of weeks. So and it was required as a student that you be at ring crew, which a ring crew of like 20 kids, like I think that's reasonable, but then you started having 70 kids that were there for ring crew.
Oh
So
my.
like we wound up having to have like a road crew where it was like, all right, we just can't bring everybody. Like this is gonna be team A and team B. So like setup was always like really easy for a
Yeah.
long time just because we had a small army to break down and set up the rings like and
And then it got
we
larger.
did we did a decent number of like baseball shows over the summer of 2019 where we were going
Nice.
over to like Reading, New York, Delaware, and we had to break down and put together the ring like twice in a single night where like or no I think we had to do it like 3 or 4 times in a single night, so by the end of that summer we got super fast at it. But anywhere else like at any other promotion they don't really have a ring crew. They have if there are students for the promotion they'll be there, but normally no one else has 70 something students, and or it'll be people that are just there like to network and be like, hey, I'm here to help out if like if a spot opens up for me, I'm here, but I'm mostly just here to help out. So that's how it usually works over here. There were a few times where like Chikara was working with Beyond or Blitzkrieg Wrestling, and like a car full of students would go to help, and the promoter would be like, I have never had this many people, I don't know what to do with you all.
And watch them all expect to get a PO at the end of the show. You're
Yeah.
all gonna in Canada, in Winnipeg, we usually do it with 5 people. It's crazy.
Yeah,
One
that's
day it was me and one other guy. That was it.
there was by the end of those summer shows when everyone was getting really sick of doing ring crew, all of a sudden our 70 students were not showing up to do crew. So it wound up turning into like 10 people trying to load the truck up, and we're like, whatever happened to our 60 something other students? Why is it just us? And it would be like kids that had just debuted, or I don't even want to say just debuted, but like they'd been wrestling for a little bit, and it was like, oh, we had 70 something students here. Like, why are you doing this?
Yeah, it makes wrestling. It gives it's that whole grind aspect of wrestling, I guess. But
Yeah,
yeah, have you ever had to set up like a cage or anything that like took
no,
forever? That
they
was
wouldn't let
horrible.
me set up the cage because I'm tiny. But it was really funny. There was we mentioned it before recording. There's a promotion called SWO, Susquehanna Wrestling Organization, where they had a cage match. Um, and I was like, do you want me to help set up the cage? And they were like, no, we have enough people. Like, we've got like some bigger dudes. And I was like, that's cool. I'm probably not strong enough to hold this up anyway. I just wanted to offer. It's maybe the smallest cage I've ever seen. But like it's still an effective cage no matter what. But whoever was in the match, there was a scramble prior to the cage match that Alex Zane was in, and I was like, Alex could hurdle this cage if he was in this match.
That's
That is how
hilarious.
short it was.
Hey, a cage is a cage, I guess.
True. Like you can still throw somebody against it and you gotta climb over it. I would rather people not try to climb over most cages that we have on the indies. I don't think they're as indestructible as, the Fed ones, but
How was your match against Solo Darling in the September of 2019?
I'm real bummed that the footage is lost.
Oh, it's gone?
Yeah, we had some kind of major mess up with the cameras because that whole show was pretty good. But we had a major malfunction with the cameras, so like the show just never got posted. But I had known Solo and she'd been a mentor for like many, many months before. I'd go as far as to say like a year prior. So getting to have a match with her was a really good learning experience. I made some mistakes in that match that I wouldn't make again, that in the moment, like I've had a lot of times where like I realized in the moment the mistake that I've made that I could have done to change it. Like in that case, like I think like I had slapped her back when I really wanted to like work the side, just because like this just is what, looks a lot more effective. This makes a lot more sense. This actually hurts as opposed to just like slapping you. But these are things you learn with repetition.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's stuff that you're not going to get right away. I had another match where Still Life with Apricots and Pears was in the match, and they rolled out before I was supposed to give them the move, and I should have gone back in to get them. I didn't, and I just kept whacking the other people in the match until eventually everyone was like, all right, we've realized she's lost. Let's just take this home then. But yeah, I like the match with Solo a lot. I really wish people could see it. Maybe we'll run it back sometime.
Yeah, hopefully sometime in the future. I always feel like footage is so important. If I was a wrestler full time, I would want to have every single one of my matches taped. Are you one of those talents that just, you have your phone and it's like, okay, can you please tape my match?
I don't think I've ever asked anyone to tape my match for me because I think I'm a little too reliant on the cameras, and I probably should have learned that lesson after losing the Solo match. But I want to have as much footage and as many photos and just like as much proof that this career has happened. Like I want the magazine that says I'm in the PWI, stuff
Well,
like
you
that.
were in there.
Yeah, right. And I'm a nominee for Rookie of the Year too. Like as of the date of this podcast being recorded, I'm still a nominee. We don't know who Rookie of the Year is yet, but I can't watch my matches back.
It's hard for me to watch some of the stuff I ref back too.
No, I don't like it. I don't like watching my matches back. It gives me like this.
Especially like your very first one.
Yeah. Oh gosh, I've watched back some stuff that I was like, I don't want to, but I'm gonna press play. Like I think most of the matches I ever watch back anymore are mine and Boomer's, and it's because Boomer's big on watching his matches back.
And I remember watching this video, and when the wrestler that goes on the second rope and he sells to the crowd, I'm standing there and I'm daydreaming. I'm just so caught up in the moment that he literally has to physically move me, and then he goes on the ropes and sells to the crowd. Like that's horrible. I felt so bad after. It was pretty funny. That was my first match, and it was in Saskatoon. And I just remember looking back at it. I went to the back and I said, "All right, what did I do wrong?" And he's like, "Well, everything." It was
well, what did you do right?
Oh man,
what happens though? That's your first couple of times you get really caught up. I don't know. You're not really expecting like some of the reactions you get from the crowd, or like to have the connection that you do right away. Like I worked a show at a camp where just like I was one of the heels in there, and the kids hated me right away, and it just started going back and forth with them, and I'm like, oh crap, I gotta hop back in here.
No, it's definitely a learning experience, and like a lot of wrestlers say on this show, the one day you feel like you know everything in this business, you gotta walk out the door.
Yeah. Or you gotta go to another school or talk to somebody you haven't talked to yet, because there's always somebody you haven't talked to yet.
I don't like I want, when it comes to training too, it's so important for someone like myself to find such a reputable trainer, which I've been managing to do. Because there's some people that wrestle for a year and there's like, all right, I'm gonna open up my academy. Here we go. Let's get newcomers. Let's go. And then they're not reputable trainers. And then these guys wrestle and they get hurt, or hurt others, and it's not good. So
Right, it's dangerous enough when you have a reputable trainer because just accidents are still going to happen. But I'm very fortunate where I am in like the Philly, Jersey area because we just have an
so
insane
much.
amount of quality schools up here. Having come from the Wrestle Factory, and more recently, I've been going to the Worldwide Dojo where Cheeseburger and Sumi Sakai teach. So
Cheeseburger's a great guy. I met him
yeah,
in Hopkins,
yeah,
Minnesota.
he's wonderful. I've already learned like even more than I was already learning from the trainers I initially started with, just because Burger has such a different take on wrestling and different experiences. Still haven't gotten to go to class with Sumi yet, but I cannot wait for the day I finally get to go to a class with her.
Definitely. That's going to be quite the learning experience right there. So, talk about GCW. You're in the gauntlet there, and that's a really well followed promotion, and that was at GCW's Effie's Big Gay Brunch. So,
Big
and that was a
Dave,
pay per
yeah,
view. So, how was
yeah.
that?
Um, it was very unexpected. I'm gonna be honest with you. I did not expect to go to the collective at all, but I had really been campaigning when the collective was initially happening in Tampa WrestleMania weekend. I wanted to get on Big Gay Brunch so badly because a big reason that I decided to take the leap into wrestling was because I felt like I had something to add as a femme performer and as a queer performer, that our voices are just starting to get heard. We're just starting to get shows like Effie's Big Gay Brunch, and wrestlers like Effie are finally like starting to get the attention they've deserved. But I never really anticipated working for GCW. Uh, so just the fact that like a bunch of queer talent got showcased um, in a crowd that was not necessarily the kind of crowd that we get at LGBT shows was
GCW is a tough crowd to work in front of,
it's
and they were a good
different.
crowd though. Very
It's
different.
it's different, but like they got behind us, and that was our biggest hurdle, our biggest, task going in there was like get the crowd to really back us up and deserve to them that like we deserve this spot too. That we deserve to be on shows other than the LGBT shows. Like we deserve a spot on the main roster too.
Oh, absolutely. Just like everybody else, equality, right? Number
That's
one.
the name of the game.
Well,
That's
it's good.
uh
It's good
I
to know
thought I
we're
had
on the
something
same
on there.
page. And
Yeah.
I was just saying about crowds. You're talking about crowds again. I remember the two toughest crowds I remember, encountering was the crowds that are not too familiar on the product and they're kind of silent, so they're not reacting to the baby face and the heel, and the
Right.
bar crowds, like the crowds at Premier
Oh, where
Championship
you
Wrestling.
can do anything and they don't care.
You can, but they're rough, man. Like I
Yeah.
remember I had this bad wacky hairdo and they yell, "Get a haircut!" and like they threw stuff at me. It's crazy.
Right. They start making fun of your tattoos or something because they don't care.
They're ruthless, man.
They
How
are.
was that an adjustment or did you just go right through it?
I kind of just tried to have the same match that I always have. I tried to be just as like I'm not gonna care less just because this crowd cares less. Because there's gonna be at least one person in this crowd that's gonna appreciate it, even if it's like my friends that came to watch the show.
Yeah.
Like, at least I will put on a show for them. If these 20 other people are like falling out of their chair drunk already because we're number 8 on a 10-match card in a bar.
Mhm. That's crazy. Bar shows are so fun, but man, those crowds, you have to have a thick skin. That's for sure.
You do, yeah. Or you got to be real confident in being a heel and like actually really enjoy being booed and heckled and not take it too seriously. I definitely have like my on and off switch where it's like, all right, I am on and the performer, nothing can break me down right now. And then I have the off where I'm like, all right, give me a second. Don't critique me right now. I don't have the brain power or emotional stability.
Definitely. What was I gonna say? It was in reference to Uh, can't. No, I wasn't gonna say chemistry. Let's just go to the top three until I remember that statement. We always do a top three on the program. Always a positive one. Top three wrestlers in terms of mentorship that you've had, besides Hallowick and Fire Ant, because those are obviously a gimme. Who are three people you've worked with in your career after graduating that were mentors to you?
Who aren't my trainers.
Who aren't your trainers?
Who aren't my trainers. My big mentors. I would say Solo Darling was super helpful in the beginning for me. And she's still been like, she'll still watch my match and she'll still, tell me what I can and can't fix. Kimberly at Chikara has also been massively helpful for me. She's always like willing to talk and she's always willing to watch what I'm doing and uh, give any kind of advice, whether it's on like wrestling itself or just navigating social waters backstage and like how politics work and all that. And Dasher Hatfield, who now goes by a very good professional wrestler, but he is my uncle and my cousin's dad, my cousin Boomer's dad, and he's consistently been there for us, even when like we're not getting along especially well. He's just always been there for us and always been incredibly helpful. I wish I had like I wasn't saying the same exact thing for everybody, but that's really just what it boils down to. It's just knowing that I have people that have been through it and have the knowledge and they're in my corner is just been the biggest help for me.
No, absolutely. It's always good to have those mentors by your side. And coming back to what I was going to say, finally remembering my thought, being a big contribution in the East Coast, where else do you want to work, after this coronavirus is over in Canada and the United States? And then we'll go to the next question in terms of international after that.
I really want to get on Beyond. I can't wait for when Uncharted Territory can come back safely because I think what they were doing with a weekly independent wrestling show was super cool. And it's a bummer that they aren't doing shows for the rest of the year. I think shows are really about to drop off as like it gets colder and we can't safely do outdoor shows. But Beyond is a major feather I want to get in my cap. And getting to work for GCW again would be incredible. I have some really good friends there that like I would love to get the chance to be on that big stage with them. I've been moving more into doing hardcore matches because I have so many weapons at my disposal. Like as a hockey playing wrestler, it's kind of foolish not to book me in street fights and hardcore matches.
How'd you come up with that character altogether, kind of before we move on to that question? Like, how did that all come about? Because that's very unique.
It was
Actually, we had
it was
Brian Prop on the show, and he was a legendary Philadelphia Flyer. So, like,
yeah,
what's the
hell
influence
yeah.
about all of that?
It was it's kind of just what made sense. It was I was doing hockey prior and my cousin's a baseball. So like I feel like it's a lot to explain to people who aren't familiar with us
Mhm.
or don't who aren't really fans of like super zany out there wrestling. They just want to see like the guy in the black trunks punch somebody. Like I think when I come out in a bright orange jersey and Boomer's in his baseball mask, people are kind of like, "What the heck?"
What's going on?
There's a lot to take in here. They're cousins. They're sports balls. There's a lot happening that like you don't want commentary to have to explain a whole freaking story. But it's what made sense. It's got legs. It's got there's a lot of stories I can tell, and I had another friend who was a longtime Shakara fan talking to me after my weekend at King of Trios. where she was like, what you're doing is super different from what a lot of other girls are doing. Because I think a lot of girls are afraid to like be ugly. If that's not the best word for it, but like be, you know, kind of raw and like make some ugly faces and like not, you know, not look perfect, I would say. Like like there's a ton of girls that have like that raw badass gimmick, but like it's scary in your first year, but it's what made sense to me. There's still plenty of times where I'm like, man, I kind of wish I had the cute girl gimmick. I kind of just want to be pretty, but like I'm happy with where I am because it's me.
Oh, exactly. And if you're being you in the ring, that is a very good quality, and that's the best character you can kind of perfection and perform with. And one thing is too is you want to make sure that you have something different and not the same of like everybody else. And you definitely did that with that character. Like the last time I think there was anything hockey related was the Goon in like
Yeah,
'93,
I gotta have my
and
match with the goon.
it was a
Getting
very
out of retirement?
I would pay to see that.
Yes.
But when it comes to the Goon, like he was a great character, but everything was white jersey, white everything. But you kind of stepped it up with like the whole, different colors because orange is a very bright color that can attract an audience. You
Yeah.
know, right away, when someone sees orange, their eye is gonna turn on you. Like, I like Orange Crush too. So there we go. We have something in common. But
It I think it's kind of like I think it comes out of All Japan when all of the guys were kind of color coordinated. Like you associate Misawa with the green gear. So that same kind of thing happened in Chikara where people just became color coordinated where like Huckabee is yellow and Crumbles and Defarge are brown and it's the most basic play on the human brain is if I can associate a color with this character that now gives me like kind of underlying feelings about this character.
yeah, definitely. So, where do you want to? What women's division roster do you see yourself contributing the most? And now everyone might say WWE in terms of that, but in terms of like the relevance and the trend and the frequency of viewership and legacy in the wrestling business, what women's roster would you see yourself on, and what do you want to be on? Would that be Japan, Mexico, AEW, WWE, anywhere?
Japan's a goal. Japan is really like my big goal because I love, love, love Joshi wrestling. Like I think All Japan Women's was the greatest promotion of all
It
time.
was great.
Stardom is still probably my favorite promotion right now. I watch anytime that they come on for free on YouTube because for some reason I struggle to sign up for the actual Stardom account. I think it's because they think that my credit card is being stolen since it's being used in Japan. But I absolutely love Stardom. I love that style. I think they're so like those girls are just miles ahead of everyone else. Like and I think even that just shows when there was a WWE Survivor Series match where it started off with Kairi Sane and Io Shirai, and I was like, nobody's gonna be able to follow these two. Like, that's you put the two of them together, knowing each other so well already there's just there's no one's going to be able to top them. Um, NXT's women's division is incredible right now.
So good right
It's
now.
so stacked, but like so is AEW's and so is Impact. I think Impact has such an underrated women's division right now.
Deanna
But like
Perrazzo, great talent. She was on the show.
Deanna, Jordan, Kim, Su Young, Kylie Ray, like they've just like it's incredibly stacked. Um, there's really there's really no women's division I would not be happy to be a part of because I think it'd be an honor to be a part of any of them. Um, who I could give the most to, I'd say I'd say AEW is probably doing the best with representation in the women's division because they've had on so many queer women and non-white women. They have so many women they're bringing in from Japan, which the thing about COVID, they don't have like as many Joshis on anymore because they can't bring them over, and that really sucks. So probably NXT or Impact. But like of them all, like I really would absolutely love to get to Stardom. Or I would love to like I would love for another show like Lucha Underground to come around again. Like Lucha Underground was super innovative in what it was doing. There was no other promotion like that on TV when it was on.
Yeah, Lucha Underground was a really solid. I like the whole background, the whole setting, and the whole way it was. I believe it's still on Netflix. Actually, you could still check
Yeah,
that out.
they did put it
But
on Netflix.
when it comes to the coronavirus and everything that's been going on right now, you as an independent contractor pro wrestler, how have you been adjusting to this, and what is your game plan for the future once this whole thing is blown off?
It's been rough. I'm fortunate that I don't have to rely on wrestling for income. But I've probably been working more now than ever, and it sucks because it's exhausting. Like even when I can go and wrestle, and I try not to wrestle every weekend, or at least definitely not multiple times in a weekend. I try not to do like a Friday and a Saturday. For my own safety and for other people's safety. And there's been times where I've just had to miss out on shows because like there was a scare at my job and I don't want to potentially take that to the show. But I've, like I was saying, I've been trying to like get out with the people that I've already been around and feel safe being around during the pandemic. Trying to like get back to training more full time, which is hard with work. And I'm trying to get back to that good work wrestling balance that I had before I had to be at work all the time because of COVID, and when it was, a little bit safer to be indoors with other people. Um, so get back on like a full training regimen because I can feel it. Like especially in tag matches, Boomer moves super fast and I don't move super fast. Uh, I didn't feel so blown up on my first couple matches back. Like my Camp Leapfrog Trios match, I felt pretty good. Um, the match I had with Still Life with Apricots and Pears at Poly Cult Party, I felt surprisingly good for a street fight after that. But like after a couple of those tags, I was like, man, I wish I could be doing more really. And I've tried the home workouts and running and getting out of the house when I can. But yeah, that's my big goal moving forward is getting that work life balance. And then once it is safer to take on more work, then try to get to as many places as I can. But for now, I'm kind of like picking my bookings like sparingly.
Is there any suggestions or anything you think the big boys, the major players should do to continue to provide entertainment on during this coronavirus? Should they continue it at all? Like, what do you think?
I don't know. I've never worked on that scale, so I don't feel like
It's a good point. Yeah.
I can have an opinion on that. I think the couple of promotions I've been working for, I'm really happy with how they've handled things. I was super happy with how the collective got handled, actually. The dressing room was the size of a barn. It was like, yeah, it was very easy to spread out and not be too close to people. And the majority of people kept their masks on, and I could keep my mask on when I wasn't wrestling. Um, it's stuff like that. It's maybe like I think the best thing you could do if you want to still have shows moving into winter and like don't feel comfortable with indoor venues, because the issue with indoor venues is like if you have a limited crowd, then you're not going to be making any kind of money. I think tapings are really still the way to go moving forward. um, but maybe like doing heated tents like they've done for outdoor events in the winter. I don't think that's the worst idea if you want to have some kind of fan inclusion. um, a lot of my area is going through spikes again. So I don't know that I would want to include fans to any capacity yet.
I can certainly agree with that. Well, Molly, looks like we covered a lot of great topics here on the Jordan Garber Now podcast. Before we wrap things up, where can people follow you on social media, whether they're listening from Philly, from Winnipeg, or anywhere across the world?
The only place you can find me is on Twitter. I am at underscore Molly McCoy underscore, not on Facebook, Instagram, or any of that. So anything about anything about merch, upcoming shows, tapings that are debuting, it's all at underscore Molly McCoy underscore. And any merch can be found at boomerhatfield.bigcartel.com because I let Boomer handle all the merch. I just yell at people to buy it.
Awesome. Well, I might have to buy myself a shirt.
Yeah. Or hat. We got hats now.
You guys got hat? Is it like
Yeah.
the
We got
baseball
beanies.
hat or?
No, they're beanies for winter.
Oh, that's awesome. I needed
Yeah.
myself a new beanie, so
I'm
I might
very
have to get
excited
myself
about it.
a boomer beanie.
Hell yeah.
Right on. Well, Molly McCoy, thank you for being on the Jordan Garber Now podcast.